How do you choose your location wisely? Some of the things you might want to consider, first of all, are security and compliance. If you've got HIPAA or medical data, you probably don't want to put that in the cloud or let your researchers take that data home with them on laptop computers. The VA had a pretty spectacular breach because of that not too long ago. Same with PCI, credit card numbers and accounts and things of that nature. And even good old Sarbanes-Oxley that we've been living with for a long time. Also, you want to consider things like performance and network traffic, where your data is located can be very important. If all your data users are here in the US, you probably don't want to locate your data in Singapore or India or somewhere in China. So deployment and service models, when you're talking about clouds, are the key to where you're going to locate your data. Sometimes your physical location can be important. Okay, you can keep your data behind guards and guns and make sure that people can't access it. No man-in-the-middle attacks, no network attacks, no data leaving your premises and getting into laptops and other places where people might be able to find it. Now, one thing you want to consider there is if you're doing software as a service, that's probably going to be remote. Your data is probably going to be remote, and you may not have much choice as to where you put it. So, public cloud, okay, least expensive, least secure. It's very easy to expand and contract. Network traffic may be an issue. You want to consider bandwidth, cost, and latency. A lot of times you'll find that vendors charge for ingress and egress of data from the cloud, or they'll charge you very little to put your data into the cloud, but getting it back out may be expensive. So look at those things and consider those as you go. Community cloud, more secure than public. In fact, one of the early community clouds was built up for just that, the intelligence community cloud that was built inside the Amazon Gov environment. Easy expansion and contraction, but there may be some limits. It's going to cost more. Data sharing is easier, but you still got network traffic as an issue. Private cloud, now you've got to decide whether you want to go on-premise or remote. But again, don't look and think that you can't do private cloud remotely. You certainly can. Amazon does that all the time, so does Oracle. It's the most secure. Your hardware, your clouds, everything in your environment behind a cage or in a cage. It's most costly, and expansion may be limited, but it can also be located near your customer or near where you are, so you might have faster access doing private cloud than you would with any other cloud environment. Software as a service, we talked about. It's almost always remote, no infrastructure costs, but you're giving up security and in some cases control of your data. And you want to make sure that data is really yours. If you're using data from a software as a service vendor somewhere, make sure you have control over that data, or you can trace that data and the data is in fact yours. And again, you've got the network to look out for. Platform as a service, again, almost always remote, reduced infrastructure costs. Security is still a concern. You're relying on a vendor to do that for you. Control can be a concern, and again, is the data really yours? And still network traffic. Infrastructure. Remote or on-prem, it's really the same thing as today's hosting with a little bit of provisioning tacked on top. Still scalable, most secure, most control, but now you've got to manage it yourself and you've got to manage those internal costs. So there's your trade-off with infrastructure as a service. So this is a little cartoon here about what all these things kind of look like, and our cowboys dancing around and maybe got to grow 4 legs to control things. So what's the best model? Well, we think that hybrid cloud is probably where you want to go. You're going to get the best of all of the above. You can pick and choose where you want to put your data, some of it on-prem, some of it in the cloud. We had to work with a customer that was a medical company doing electronic medical records. They wanted their clinicians to be able to access the data remotely and do things with it, but they didn't want to move that HIPAA data around. So they kept all the HIPAA data and everything else on-prem in a private cloud on their premises, cloud at customer, and then they extracted the data they wanted for their analysts to use with non-patient information in it, non-identifying information, and that they shipped to a public cloud vendor, and they put it in a public cloud. So you really do get the best of both worlds. Completely eliminate on-premise costs, but you can control them because you're only keeping the stuff on-premise that needs to be on-premise. It's probably the most resource intensive, but it does address network and security concerns. And again, you can put the data where you want it. If you got users in Singapore, you can put some data in Singapore and some data in Portland, Oregon, and you're not going to have to deal with network latency and some of those other issues.